Welcome back to the Real Power Podcast. I am very excited for today's show. We got an awesome guest, Cruz Nieves. Chef Cruz is the founder, owner, and executive chef behind Shell, a fine dining experience based here in Rochester, New York. With nearly 20 years of industry experience, his culinary journey has taken him through prestigious kitchens such as Del Posto and Gabriel Kreuther in New York City, as well as Rella and Snug Harbor here in Rochester. His creativity, technical range, and attention to detail effortlessly blend to craft your bespoke dining experience. I was telling you, you met Carter at Elevate Fitness, and immediately Carter's like, Chef Cruz, man, get him on the show ASAP. I reached out to you and you responded right away. You're like, let's do it, man. And here we are today, and couldn't be more excited to dive into everything you're doing. You're becoming very influential here in the Rochester market, and I'm sure you have many stories to tell. So Chef Cruz, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I love what you guys are doing. Anybody that is doing something really good at the highest level, I kind of want to be part of it as well, just because that's kind of like, I feel like it represents me as well.
Likewise, man. Take us back to like the beginning of your culinary journey. How did everything begin for you?
I was in Puerto Rico when it was during the summer. And, you know, I was 16 years old, I think it was, and I was summer break. A friend of mine who was working in a restaurant wanted to quit his job because he had found like a better job, and he was like a dishwasher. And he wanted to do it the right way. They needed him at the other job very quickly. So he couldn't put a notice, so he needed to find somebody to fill up the position. And he told me about it. The next day, he took me to the restaurant. I remember doing the interview in the back door with the chef. Lying about my age too. It was like all under the table. And they were like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 18. I was 16. They definitely didn't look 18 either.
Yeah.
And I got the job on the spot. I think it was like 2:00, and they told me, hey, come back at 4:30.
Oh, that day. They were like,
yeah.
You're starting.
Yeah, and I started that day as a dishwasher, and I think I quickly fell in love with not so much the food aspect of it, but the culture of a restaurant and everything that was kind of like happening around me. At the time was not the good things. Everybody was drinking, doing drugs, and having a lot of fun. And I was like, God, this is kind of like a cool job, you know, that I can do this. I get paid, I get free food, free alcohol, and we get to party with people that are fun, you know.
Pretty good gig at 16 years old.
At 16 years old, yeah. So.
Yeah. And then where'd it go from there?
From there, I think I did dishes for about 3 weeks. And slowly, I think Robert was the name of the chef at the time. And I remember asking him for a pie. I was like, hey, can you make me a pizza? Because I'm a little bit hungry. And he looked at me and was like, I'm going to show you how to make a pizza once. And if you ever want pizza, ask me and you can make it yourself. Like, I'm too busy. They were really understaffed. And he taught me how to make pizza, and I really enjoyed it. Pizza's my favorite food. So I was like, you know, every day I used to go to work and like make myself a pizza and like trying to like make it better. And throughout that, I used to be really good with the dishes. So I used to get done with the dishes, and then like they were really busy, understaffed, and I'm like, hey, can I help you? And they're like, go make a pizza, or like drop the calamari, or like do the salad. And they started like teaching me. And then I think 3 weeks in, they were like, hey, if you can find a friend to come and fill up for you a dish, like we'll put you in the kitchen. And then I asked a friend came in and took over the dish pit, and I got promoted as a line cook. And at the time, I think I was trying to go to school to become a jockey, because I was really skinny, a very small kid, and I was really good with horses too.
Okay, yeah.
My neighbor had horses, and I used to race them for him at like in the street.
Cool.
And we used to bet and make money, and use the money to like, you know, buy stupid stuff. But I was like, I kind of want to do this because like, I don't know, I was like physically well for it, I guess. And the money was good. It was kind of like a time in my life when I didn't know what to do. But then I started doing the kitchen thing, and I instantly fell in love with like cooking. And more than the love was that I actually realized that I was really good at it naturally. You know, definitely there were many skills that needed to be honed, and those have been throughout the years of experiences, but I was like naturally like really good at it.
Gifted, yeah.
Yeah, and the chef was like, hey, dude, like you should consider doing this as a career, you know, like it's not very lucrative, but like you're really good. And I did it there for a while. And I remember after I did it there, I then worked at a restaurant that was closer to my house. It was kind of like Puerto Rican food. And, in the between of that, I started like learning about New York City. And then my mom was already living here in Rochester. She had moved here. I was there like living on my own basically because I had a job and everything. And I was like, I kind of want to move to New York so I can work in New York City because that's where the best restaurants are.
Yeah.
And I turned 18. I graduated high school. When I started cooking, I dropped out of high school and entered this program where I could finish high school earlier. So I was going to a program that was treated kind of like college. So you go to school at night it was from 5 to 9. So I was able to work in the restaurant in the morning and then go to school, and then you'll finish a grade in like 6 months.
Wow.
So I wanted to kind of like rush that. I did that, took 6 months off from school, worked, and then I ended up moving here to Rochester, and
here we are today.
and here we are today.
Yeah.
From there, I guess, from Rochester, I learned the language because I didn't know any English. That was the first thing,
Well, your English is pretty good now, I gotta say.
It's pretty good, yeah. I'm pretty proud. I'm really proud of it, and everybody kind of like always like, oh wow, you moved here when you were 18, and like,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, sometimes it's like I'm really good at adjusting. That's what I like to tell people, and like I think the people that are one of the best advices. One of my old chefs gave it to me, Mark Cupulo. He was like, hey, Cruz, like you're one of the best line cooks that I've ever seen because you have the ability to adjust.
Adapt.
You have to adapt. When you're working in a restaurant, anything that will go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing is like what makes the best cooks are the ones that are able to kind of like adjust.
Quick on their feet.
Everything is happening so fast in a restaurant. So you have to be able to snap out of it. Don't let whatever happen let you down, and just adapt and continue to move on.
And I feel like that translates into other areas of your life as well. It's gotta, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I live a life where like I feel like everything I do translate to everything. The restaurant, the type of training that I do for exercise, the type of relations that I have with people, like everything just have to have a purpose that is going to help me at the end in the overall life.
Yeah, love it, man. So let's talk a little bit about your restaurant. Shell, tell us a little bit about that and why it's going to be so great.
Shell, we've been doing pop-ups, or the restaurant actually was born as a pop-up December of 2022.
Okay.
I had the idea the same year in January. I had left my job, which I was working at Rella's. That was my first chef job ever. And I was in my couch. I was watching TV, and I don't know, I was watching a cooking show, and I don't know, everything kind of like came into my head. I was jobless at the time. I didn't have a job because I just like kind of like we separated ways. I wouldn't say that I got fired or I quit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like ended. And as I was sitting on the couch, I had just came from Arizona. I had 2 amazing meals, completely different, and inspired me in such an incredible way. One of them was at this restaurant called Chinbei. It's a sushi bar. They do 2 seatings of 8 people. And that's all. That's it.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It was my first time having omakase. The attention to detail, like, there was 4 people working there to serve 8 people. You have a dishwasher, a chef, a sous chef, and a front of the house person.
And that's it.
And that was it. And it was probably one of the best meals that I've ever had in my life. Like, it inspired me so hard. And then I was staying in Flagstaff at the time. I wanted to move to Flagstaff just because it's kind of like run country over there. Like all the professional runners, I was kind of like chasing that as well. And I was like, maybe I'll go over there. I can get to train at elevation and whatnot. So I went over there to check out the scene and see if it was a fit. And as soon as I drove in, it was not a fit.
You're like, this isn't
it. But I had a great vacation, and like, the restaurant kind of was born from it. So I had dinner at this restaurant, Atria. It's run by a woman and by a lot of women, actually. The chef and the sous chef was women. And it was incredible. It was very elegant food. The restaurant was a little bit bigger, but they still were able to like handle some beautiful food. The china was beautiful, super attentive to detail. And they had just opened, and I don't know how, I do the research, I guess, and that's how I found it. But the combination of those two meals, when I came back, I basically was like, you know, how can I do this in Rochester?
Bring it back home, yeah.
You know, and at that point, I still wanted to move, so it wasn't even like do it in Rochester, you know? It was more about like, well, how can I do this wherever I land?
Yeah.
Because I really was inspired by it. And watching TV, had just ended my job. I thought about this like name for a place because I don't know if you know Kermit crabs. Once they, so they're these crabs and they go from shell to shell. And they only change shells once they have outgrown their shell and they move to the next one.
Got it.
And I thought about like, that was the thought that I had in my head because I was like, I miss my job. I miss like that place where I used to be able to go and like, you know, do what I wanted and like express myself. But that wasn't my whole life. That was one of my shells.
Yeah, it was a season.
Yeah, and I was like, as I said that, I was like, oh, it'd be cool if I have a restaurant named My Little Shell. And then as I kept going into thought, you know, it's like shell is just cleaner.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought about it for a whole year. I still wanted to move, I guess. And at the time I was consulting at the Reverie. And we were done with brunch. And I remember like some urge in me just like, I just really want to do a bomb dinner. Like I just want to do the best dinner I have ever done. I'm going to use everything I could possibly can that is expensive and elegant, and I'm just going to do it right. And I'm going to charge people a lot of money because I want to do it right, and it has to make sense. So I remember Josh Miles happened to be out there, and I went out there and was like, hey, Josh, I have this idea. They have a wine cellar downstairs, 8 seats, which is perfect. And I was like, I want to do this dinner, like all out. You know, we'll do 7, 8 courses, wine pairing, but nothing is going to fall short. Everything is going to be like magnificent, the best. Mm-hmm. We're going to get caviar, we're going to get fresh truffles, we're going to get everything. And he's like, do it. And I was like, really?
Just like that. He was
just like that. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, dude, thank you. I went downstairs in the office, I sat down, and I wrote him a menu, part of a menu. Just like, I had like 5 courses done immediately. And then I was like, got stuck, and sometimes when I get stuck, I have to put the pen down, or you know wherever I'm, and I just like let it go.
Yep.
The next morning, I was like kind of like back with the juices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good in the mornings.
Me too.
So I was back with the juices, finished the whole menu, and then put it all together. You know, social media has been a really big part of my business, and I'm forever grateful for it. I announced it on social media. We had 16 seats to 2 nights. We had a menu and everything. Put it on social media. It sold out in like minutes.
Love it, man.
At the highest, I was like, I can't believe people are willing to pay this price. And then the pressure become even like bigger because, you know, for me, it's like charging people a lot of money. It's like, it's not what I want, you know, but sometimes it's like, it needs to happen in order to like have a business, you know, and stuff like that. But you also have to deliver.
Yep. The product has to back it up.
Yeah, everything has to back it up. And yeah, I mean, we did the pop-up and we ended up opening another night. So we did Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sold out. And I was like, after doing it, my whole desire of moving disappeared. I was like, wow, I actually have a business here.
Yeah.
Like I have something here that is very unique to me. Like when we did Rella was the first seafood restaurant in Rochester.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So to me, that was like, I always want to be the first one at something, you know, and I want to do that so I can show people that there's avenue for it.
It's possible.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to be the only one, but being the first one actually gives me, you know.
Yeah, you want to pave the way.
I want to pave the way, you know, because like I want other people to do it because I also want to go to restaurants like mine when I'm not working, because I enjoy it. I love it. It's like what I do, I do it and I love it. And I want to, explore and get inspired by food and stuff like that. So that's how it happened. And after that, we did pop-ups almost monthly. Those were selling out in minutes. It was, to me, blew my mind that again, why I continued to do it was because people say, when is the next one?
Yeah.
Nobody cared about the price. Nobody cared about anything. And, I ended up collaborating with Chef Jeremy from Velvet Belly, who I love very much. To me, he's probably one of the most talented chefs here in town. It's a little bit old school. I do have a lot to learn from him in terms of what it's like to be a leader.
Sure.
And the way that we respect each other and we work in the kitchen together is amazing. And so, yeah, that's kind of how the restaurant was born. And
I love it, man.
Yeah.
What a crazy story. And here you are today. And the part about social media, man, you're definitely popping off on social media. So do you sell those pop-ups pretty much off of social media? You post that you're doing one?
So the first few of them, we started with the social media. And that was great. And but again, I also like a lot of exclusivity. So once we settled the restaurant and we decided that we were going to do the thing and everything, so we created a website. Now we have our own website. And most of our sales for these pop-ups have actually been done through the mailing list.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
we like to get people to sign up to our mailing list, and then we do an email blast.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
With the link. Sometimes social media is weird, as much as I love it. Sometimes the algorithm might take you out of people's stuff. It's really hard to figure out why, or doesn't matter how much content or how often content you're putting out. Sometimes it's just
Yeah, that email list is tried and true. And that's how many people do you have on the list right now? Do you know?
We have close to 600. It's not that many, but that has been enough for us to.
And that'll continue to grow, man.
It'll continue to grow,
Yep.
and again, as a pop-up, we did the wine dinners, and then this year we switched the wine dinner in terms of we didn't do tasting menus. We did a la carte to kind of see how far we can push the food in terms of how much do we have to prep, how many people can we serve. Sometimes we pushed it and okay, we pushed it a little bit too much. Not everything was perfect. We have to kind of
pull it back a little.
Pull back a little bit, and we were doing. I think the most we did on a weekend was 210 people.
Wow.
It was, to me, it's to not have a restaurant and do a pop-up and be the busiest restaurant.
And be building that big of a fan base already. I can only imagine when you guys launch, it's going to be a day for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I don't think I dreamed enough of it, because it's probably what I've dreamed is going to be even crazier.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm excited for it, man. So what's your favorite dish to create?
On the menu?
Anything you make in general. Do you have one dish that you're just super passionate about making?
I think anything with fish, anything that has a piece of fish on it, it really grabs me always.
Why fish?
Fish is a very difficult thing to do. I think Eric Ripert, he has a book called, I think it's 32 Yolks. I remember reading the book. And I fell in love with fish in New York. When I stashed Del Posto, they served me this poached salmon and olive oil. Very controlled. It's still probably my favorite preparation for salmon, and it's probably attached because of the memory. But they poached the fish and olive oil at 118 degrees until it's done. Basically, it takes, depending on the thickness of the fish, takes somewhere between 16 to 22, 24 minutes, whatever. But I remember having the fish, and it was like custard. I never was a fish person before that, because all the fish that I ever had was dry.
Yeah.
And it was just mind-blowing. And ever since that day, I kind of became obsessed with figuring out how to cook fish.
Yeah, how do I do that?
How do I do it? And learning all these things. And but yeah, Eric Ripert in his book, he says cooking a steak is imagine two different guys, right? The steak is like a very muscular guy who's still attractive, but he's like, you can tell that this guy goes to the gym, right? And then he goes, fish is the guy on the suit. It's the guy that's very elegant. The guy that probably most women will go for. That will take the elegant guy over the muscular.
Big macho man.
Yeah. And I remember that, and it was like, and he says that in the beginning of the chapter and whatnot, but then he takes it up into like, like you can mess up a steak and still the person that's sitting in the dining room is not going to be able to tell that much of a difference if you're a few degrees off. But when you're a few degrees off with fish, you can tell the difference immediately. It's not as juicy. It's a lean piece of meat that it gets dry really quick. So it's very difficult. So that's why I'm like obsessed with
It's almost a challenge that you're obsessed with, right?
Yeah. And it's always hard because like, you're in a restaurant, you have to multitask, and you have to like do a lot of things at the same time. It's not like you're cooking this one perfect fish. You're trying to cook 7 of them.
Yeah. Seriously.
So anything with fish, I think I'm very passionate about. Right now, probably my favorite dish on our menu, it's a shrimp ragu. I created this recipe a while ago for an event or something, and it was sea urchin butter. So we make this sea urchin butter, and then we buy the shrimp shell on. We grill them over charcoal, so it gives them like a little bit of a bitterness. Then we peel them, and then we make this lobster stock. We have byproduct from our lobster rolls, so we make a lobster stock that I learned how to do at Del Posto. I tweak it a little bit and add a little bit more spices, just because I don't try to make everything the same. I learn something and then I make it my own in a way.
Add your own twist on it. Yep.
Yeah. So we do the lobster stock. We mount this butter and a little spaghetti, and then we do the grilled shrimp and then a spicy breadcrumbs on tops, and it's like.
I'm getting hungry, man.
Yeah, it's funny because like people tell you that you don't get to pick your signature dishes, but like, I don't know, it's my place. I get to do what I want.
You talk about how passion is great, but it doesn't always lead to success. You talk about how in order to be successful, you have to be damn good at what you're doing. Talk about the difference between being good at something, being passionate about something, being able to work on your passionate stuff is like a hobby, but saving like the stuff you're really great at for business, making money. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky, like and I don't expect everybody to have the same experience as me that I felt into the kitchen, and it's something that I'm passionate and I love, but I also happen to be good at.
You're a lucky one.
Sure. It doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's really hard now because of like all this stuff that we see, social media and all that stuff, and like you're being pulled from different sides of like, oh, you should do the things that you're passionate about and you love, because then you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Right.
But I mean, a big example is like growing up, I was very passionate about basketball and I loved it. I played basketball in school. It's the first sport I ever played, that in my memory. But I was never good at it. I mean, I'm 5'3", 5'2", let's say. Maybe 5'3" on a good day with good shoes, It's only been one great player at that height, And it's like, do I really like pursue this because I'm passionate about it? Like how much, like maybe if I put all my cards in that, maybe I would have, but it's still like
a big risk.
It's a huge risk, and I'm all about taking those big risks too, but it's like, I think that I mean, not anymore because I'm so much more into running, but like I still play basketball until like I was 20 something before running showed up.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I still love the game. I'm very well knowledge about the game, and I always thought that I would make a better coach than a player. But yeah, I think it's like the difference to me is that like, passion, you can't make money with passion. You still can have passion for something and like enjoy it. Enjoy it, because I'm all about enjoying the things in life, but, like doing something that you're really good at too. I feel like you can have fulfillment from that.
Yes.
Just achieving things fulfill a person, like naturally.
That can almost become a passion.
That can almost become a passion, because like when you're doing something and then you're good at it, you feel good about yourself.
Yes.
Might not be the most passionate thing about, that you are in your life.
Yeah.
But you still can do that other thing when you go home, you know, like maybe you set yourself for so much success that, you know, you're only able to, you can work 20 hours and then you can put the rest of your time, you know. It's like, I think it's very important to set ourselves of like what we really want to do, you know, in terms of like our life. And then, you know, I feel like I'm never going to get old myself. So it's like, if I have to work really hard until I'm 45 and, you know, I'm very passionate about traveling and, you know, going out to eat in different cities, learning cultures about people. Like, I'm really passionate about that. And I still have a little goal inside of me of like, you know, like maybe when the whole restaurant thing is set up and everything, like, and I'm a little bit older, I would like to chase like a little bit of like a celebrity chef so I can do the traveling and still get paid.
Love it.
You know, am I there yet? No. It's still in the back of my head. And you know, I mostly want to do it more. I don't like the celebrity status, to be honest. You know, it's locally, and sometimes it's like overwhelming. You know, you're out there and like you go to Wegmans, and sometimes you're in a rush, and
You're like, I don't want to talk to anybody right now.
it's not even about not wanting; it's like not having the time. And then you see somebody, and it's always in the back of my head. I got to say hi and all that stuff. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, Chef Cruz is an asshole.
It's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility that you have right now, you know. But I always feel like the traveling and all that stuff kind of like, you know, at one point in my life, I would like to do it. But, you know, right now I have to do the things that I'm really good at.
Sure.
I'm still love them, you know, so.
Yeah, and I think we all have a whole life to live, right? And we can do multiple things, and like, there's seasons of your life where right now you're putting in the work so that maybe down the line you could do other stuff, right?
And that's another thing, maybe.
You
know,
right?
because
life
like,
changes.
One of my favorite motivational speakers, David Goggins.
Love him. Yep.
You know, he has a line that I live by.
What's that?
And he says, sometimes hard work might not be enough and you still fail. And, you know, people think because you're working really hard, that you deserve everything, and sometimes it just doesn't come. Sometimes it's just the way the life is, you know, and nobody has anything against you. Life doesn't have it against you, you know. Yeah. It's just sometimes how things are, you know, and like, so I think people have a hard time accepting those things.
Yeah, and like the market is what the market is. If it's not working out, either you're not good enough or that's usually what it is. Like, you got to be better, and that's just that's
and
just the nature
you
of
could
life.
have worked really hard.
Yep.
But somebody was probably working harder than you. It's not to take away that you weren't working hard.
It's nothing personal.
It's nothing. Yeah, somebody might just the guy that was right next to you worked a little bit harder than you.
Yeah.
And you know,
that's life.
And that's life.
Well, I love the part too about you know, a passion almost can be created. And for me, I think I'm a good example because I had no photography experience before starting, you know, a photography business. And I almost cultivated a passion for it because I was doing it and I got kind of good at it, right? So, and there was opportunity in the field that I went towards, and I wasn't passionate about it at the beginning, but now I sort of am. So I think the takeaway for people there is like, you could start a cleaning business, and like, cleaning is the most boring thing in the world. But if you get good at building a cleaning business, that can become a passion for you. You can enjoy doing it. And I think that goes for any business that you're starting, anything you're doing in life. If you love basketball, that's great. You know what the percentage of people who go pro in basketball is? Very, very, very slim. So it's okay to be passionate about that and play as much basketball you want in your life, but finding something that, number one, the market needs, number two, you're good at, that's the combination to be successful, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too, you know. Maybe the basketball thing, you have a kid and then you coach your kids, you know.
And and maybe that's the route you take, right?
But yeah, it is finding that loop, finding that hole in the market. Yeah, that's
What does it take to be great?
Oof. What does it take to be great? I think it is this is like a very individual thing. I hope for everybody.
Yeah.
I think for me, in this stage of my life, the thing that I'm striving for most, it's a certain type of balance between everything. Like, at one point in my life, I think I was putting too much into something, And yes, I'm going to be putting much into my restaurant.
Yep.
And that's going to happen. But I think after that, I want to build my team so they can support me. And then I can still balance my relationships in my life. I can still balance my training in my life. I can still balance like going out in my life. I recently been going out more than, ever before for the last probably 5-6 years of my life. And I actually been enjoying it, the social aspect of it, getting to meet people. But I don't know if I was going to define it into something. I guess you just have to do extra. I mean, for me, it is having to do the extra thing.
The extra mile.
The extra mile, go a little bit extra. I do this thing with my guys, with Marco mostly, because Marco is my sous chef. And we do this thing when we evaluate a service or evaluate an event. And, I'm really hard on myself. So, and he knows that. So when I'm being hard on him, he is understanding.
He knows where it's coming from.
He knows where it's coming from, because I always have this thing where nobody's ever gonna be harder on me than I am on myself. I demand so much of myself. So I always point out those little things, because in the restaurant world, I think what is gonna separate everybody that is good into great is the attention to details. And that's kind of like what I take pride on it. We had a service. We put out the best food that was put out that night in Rochester. Let's say that, and, that's something that we always talk about. But it's not about that. It's how can we be perfect? How can we be better? You left this towel right here. You didn't wipe down your station enough times, the stove, you didn't brush the grill. Those little things, that, those are the things are going to those details are going to translate to food. I learned all this stuff at Michelin star restaurants. And I remember asking Rob, he was the sous chef at Gabriel Kreuther. At the end of the night, they made us put all the containers and everything facing. And everything had to be
perfect.
And I'm like, chef, at the time they were chasing a second Michelin star, and that's kind of why I took the job there. And I knew that from the moment I walked into the building. It felt the energy. I tasted the food, and I was I was working at a 1 Michelin star, and I tasted the food at this restaurant. I'm this is not 1, this is 2, and they're gonna get it. I need to work here. But the thing that resonated with me was Cruz, you're not, you're cooking here for 6 hours, and you might not think about these containers, but you're looking at them all the time. And if they're not in order, your brain is going to register that indirectly.
Subconsciously.
And then you're not going to be in order in your workstation. And I was you're right.
It's so true.
And I was so I think the difference between great and good, it's that little attention to detail and going that extra mile to achieve that.
That was very, very well said. And it reminds me of the analogy of if your bedroom or your house is a mess, your brain and your mind is going to be a mess, because you might not think that you're thinking of that, but when your environment, what you're surrounded by, is chaos, that leads to a mind of chaos. And it's something that I've learned to get better with, cleaning up, just organization in general is so crucial to being able to clear your bandwidth and have enough brain power to do the things you need to do to be successful, right? So keeping your life organized is huge.
I went to the stream to paint my house the other day just because it was bothering me. Especially around my dining room. I spend a lot of time in the dining room.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
I would just sit there and I do all my work in my table. I everything. I don't have an office.
Okay.
And I just do everything there. I sit there. I create there, and I have dinner there. And I was looking at the walls. I'm no, I can't. It's just bothering me. Just little moved everything. Spent a whole day touching up my whole place. Just those little things, like I could not like
Living rent free in your mind.
in my head. Yeah.
Yep. Can you talk about the importance of having mentors in your life?
Yes, I think that, as a young chef, number one, I am so far ahead of most people my age, and I attribute everything to my mentors. I would have never gotten this far by myself. So to me, that has probably been the most impactful thing in my career. I think my very, very first mentor was Chef Brickman from culinary school. And I learned so much from him. Not so much about like cooking and all that stuff, but I learned a lot from him. And I don't know, I have a tattoo after the man. And, because of him, I ended up getting a job site. I had an assignment for a different class, and I was like, hey, chef, like, I don't go out to eat that much. Like, I was broke, I'm 20 years old, and I was like, I have to review a restaurant as a homework for, like, I have an assignment for a different, I don't even remember the class, but I was like, what's your favorite place to eat? And it's like, I love this restaurant named Rocco. I think at the time, Rocco was like a year and a half old. Like, now they're like 12, 13 years or whatnot, and I ended up going to Rocco. Sat at the bar, illegally, basically. Not illegally, but,
Yeah.
They didn't serve me alcohol, let's put it that way. But, you're underage. You don't want to take a bar stool or whatnot. And I ate there by myself. And I remember having this crostini with melted gorgonzola, apples, and a little bit of balsamic. Back then, like, I didn't know that much about food. So, like, that little thing, I'm like, fruit and cheese and a piece of bread, everything just like... And I had this duck with like an arugula salad, butternut squash puree, and a cranberry mostarda. And I was like, wow, what is this? There's a bunch of things in the same night that I've never had. And I fell in love with the food there. So I became a regular. And because, Bregman as a mentor sent me there, I ended up there, almost all the time and begging for a job.
Yeah.
Until an opportunity opened. I remember Mark Kupulu, the owner, called me and he was like, hey, I have a part-time job for you if you're still looking for a job. And I'm like, without a question, I'll be there. Mm-hmm. Next day he calls me, hey, I actually lost one of my guys. I need a full-time. I'm like, yes. Don't even question anything.
Yeah.
I ended up working there a lot. I used to be the last person out. Mark used to, the guys that were there, that was his restaurant. So the guys that I used to work with weren't like that professional, they were not like chefs, but they got the job done and they were really good cooks. But Mark will stay later and clean the restaurant after they got done cleaning, which was great. And I had a lot of great conversations with him. I ended up working for him for 2.5 years. And at the time I was like so in love with Italian food because of working at an Italian restaurant. And I was like, hey, Mark, like, I think I want to move to Italy. Like, I want to... And he like looked at me and he was like laughed basically. I'm like, dude, the Italian food is good, but you are such a great cook that like you should move to a big city. You should move to New York. You should move to Chicago, San Francisco, somewhere where you're gonna be working with the best of the best.
Of the best. Yeah.
And I was at the time I had already forgotten my goal of like I first moved to Rochester because I wanted to move to New York City. So I had like subconsciously like forgotten that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wow, yeah. I forgot about that. And then I started like reading and found out about this restaurant, Del Posto. And at the time, Del Posto was the best Italian restaurant in the country. There was the first Italian restaurant in the United States to get a Michelin star. Back in the day, Michelin was a little bit iffy about giving the stars. Now I feel like they're just gifting them, which is okay. But most restaurants had stars were French. Michelin comes from like France and all that stuff. So the French cuisine, English cuisine, those type of cuisines always had like the accolades. Mm-hmm. And Italian wasn't so big. It was kind of like poor people's food. But they were doing it right and they got it. And reading different type of books, I found out about the restaurant, became very intrigued. Too little, I knew that one of Mark Scupola's friend, Russell Ferguson, who was a local chef here in town. Now he works for Wegmans, but him was roommate with the chef of this restaurant in college. And networking at a party, I met him, and little did I know, I was in New York City at the doors of my dream job, and ended up going there for 10 days and just checking it out. See if it was like something that I really wanted to do. All the things that could go wrong went wrong that day for them. And I ended up filling up in the line, which was like nothing that I would ever expected. And 2 days after, they offered me a job.
Wow.
And it was crazy. You know, I was like, hey, I actually have a job. I live in Rochester. I'm here on I use my vacation to go work and continue to grow. And yeah, there I worked for a long time, but there's a chef, Melissa, who is very active still in New York City. She was such a mentor for me. I remember one time, I wasn't even working there yet. It was during this 10-day period. She taught me how to turn artichokes. And she told the story years later. She's one of the best chefs I ever worked for, you know, and she's turning the artichokes and I'm turning them with her. In my head, I'm like, she's doing like 2, 3 while I do 1. And I was like, I got to speed up. And the speeding up was that I messed up a whole case of artichokes that they were not going to use. This is a Michelin star restaurant. They have to be perfect. And it's when she caught up to me, like messing everything up. She was like, why would you try to do this if you don't even, to do this fast, if you don't even know how to do it? And yeah, I mean, from there, like I don't know. She was such a good mentor for me. She got me the job at Gabriel Kreuther. And at Gabriel Kreuther, I didn't get to get that many, like a mentor there. Just, that was a tough place for me. I learned a lot, but yeah, I mean, through that, I just like Chef Melissa for me, just like, she just molded me into like what I am as a cook now or a chef. And even though like back then I was so ignorant and didn't listen or follow much of her advice, I still hear her voice in my head of telling me those things. And now I do apply them, you know, which is like a funny thing. I was like, sometimes I tell people things and they're like, at one point they'll get it. Because it was the same for me. I didn't get them right away. But at one point in my life, I actually got it. And it's funny, sometimes I just text her. I was like, hey, chef, thank you. Like just like a simple thing, like thank you because of this.
And things that like you might not even realize when you're younger. I think that's why it's so important to like put your ego aside when you're young. You might think that you know everything, and I'm guilty of it too. Like I'm still learning to put my ego aside, and you learn some things, but you never know everything. And there's always people better than you. And like you just said, you might not even you might not realize it when you're younger, but fast forward a decade down the line, you might like realize, oh, that thing that person told me, that's so true. And there's a reason why they said it.
There's another great advice, another mentor of mine, Vinny. He was my roommate, and then he was the CDC at Del Posto as well. But at the end of my time there, one of the main reasons of me wanting to leave the restaurant was because I felt like I got too good. And I definitely walked around the restaurant with my ego on my shoulders, and I made sure I told everybody how I was much better than them. And in one of the conversations that because they met with me, I'm like, dude, you're so good, like, but your attitude is not really good at this point. And I remember sitting down with them, and he like looked at me, and he was like, hey, dude, if you're good, people will tell you. You don't have to tell anybody that you're good. And I still did it for a little bit, but then later on, like that still resonated with me.
Yeah, letting your work do the talk.
It's like, dude, we all know that you're the best cook we have. Like, there's no doubt about that. But you don't have to walk around and tell everybody, because then everybody's going to feel down, and like, nobody's like, you are decreasing the productivity of the team. But with your attitude.
Dude, I love it. I've heard someone say like the loudest person in the room is usually the most insecure, and the quietest person is usually the smartest and the wisest. You don't have to shout from the rooftops that you're so great. And I think the reason people do it is because they need that validation. Because they're even inside themselves, they're still like feeling a missing part. And that's why they're shouting. But when you have true confidence and you're really, really good at what you do, you don't have to say a damn word. People know.
Yeah, people, and they will tell you.
They'll tell you. So your social media presence is on point. How important to you is putting out great content as a business owner, as an entrepreneur?
I think I go back and forth, because part of me sometimes don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm more about the product, and I've been so lucky to like have such a, I hire a company, floated, launched creative. They started as a magazine, and then they kind of like moved more into like creating content for businesses and all that stuff. But, it's really hard for me to create content while I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
So I much rather have someone that comes in, and that's kind of like where like the battle is. Like, I think it is really important for the business, especially when we're trying to create a business that is very unique in terms of some of the stuff I post and some pictures that I've taken from my phone, and it's just to kind of like, I feel to like let people, there's still a human here, and like, here's a little bit of fun of this. Some of the stories that I post, it's like, just, me and like a picture we took on a selfie on a private party or whatnot. And like, but that other aspect of like putting like a post or content or anything like that, it's like really important because it's like the image of the restaurant.
Yes.
So like, I feel like, you have to have something that is going to match the product. Like, you can't just say, oh, I have a great product, and then post a picture that's blurry or doesn't have the right everything, or a video or anything like that. So I think it's really, really important. Do I like to do it myself? Definitely not. It's a different type of work that I don't enjoy, and
it's tough.
I'm not really good at it. I recently on my personal page just been like, I take pictures and snippets here and there throughout the month, and then at the end of the day, I just like find them, put a quote, lyric, a song, and this is like kind of like what my life has been, and like you can interpret it as you want, But I don't know. It's just, for business, I think it's very important that you are presenting your business image to the best of your capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point you made there is great about, you got to focus on your product first, your service first. If that is world class, social media will be a lot easier because it's very easy to show off something that's great versus trying to manipulate, put lipstick on a pig on something that is just quite honestly shit, right? So focus on being great at what you're doing, and then using social media to propel, to feel that even more.
I mean, to me, it's always the hardest part of it is, when I was a chef at Rella for an entirely probably year and a half, our business model was, we're not going to have a sign on the door. And we didn't have social media. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a phone. We didn't take reservations. None of those things. And the restaurant just took off just because word of mouth.
Just word of mouth, yep.
Again, go back to the product. People were so excited to be there that they were doing the posting for us.
They did all the marketing for
you.
They
did all the marketing for us. And, and like, it's probably one of my proudest achievements that I've had. It's to like build a restaurant and a business that was extremely successful. Even though I didn't come up with the idea of go back to like Mark Cupulo, he had this great idea of like having a restaurant where the chef cooked the food and served the person, which was incredible because he basically like decreased labor. On a good day, we were doing like 50 plus covers, and then you have 3 employees. Yeah. And
a lot of profit.
It was a lot of profit, like, So yeah, and it was the product that created that.
Yep. Your customers will do the talking for you, right?
It's a small town.
It is a small town. Word gets around, and on both sides, if you're great or you're shit too. Yeah. So I know we already touched on. What do you do for fun outside of your work?
I enjoy running. Actually, do not enjoy running. I enjoy how I feel after I run.
There you go.
So I do the running.
Yep.
As a fun thing. I'm very passionate about it. At one point I was really good, not anymore, but I'm still very passionate about it. I recently gotten into electric dancing music, EDM, and all that stuff. So sometimes for fun, I'm out trying to catch a DJ that is playing somewhere. I enjoy that, love dancing, love going out to meet people as well. So one of my favorite things to do is like go out to dinner.
Yeah.
It's definitely like my ultimate favorite thing. If you ask me, it'll probably go out to dinner.
How often do you out to dinner? Like how many times a week?
Not that often anymore, but I think I try, at least once a week or, here like once every other week. So I don't know. It's like a beautiful thing, It's a way to draw inspiration to what I do.
Yep.
It's a way to see like what other people are doing as well.
I'm sure when you're sitting down, you're analyzing everything too.
Oh yeah, I can't turn it off. It's like a weird thing,
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it is a blessing and a curse, and I recently this year had a really, really bad experience somewhere that I was like, wow, like I'm never coming back here.
Call them out right now. I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to call. I don't call anybody out, but yeah, I mean, we showed up on a reservation time, and it was a group of us. And the reservation was like close to their closing time, which is understandable. We ordered a drink, had a drink. We had been there for 35 minutes. And we just started getting our food, and then we ordered another drink. It was past their closing time, but we are already dining. And they're like, actually, the bar is closed. I'm like, what? Like, I just got my food, and I want another drink with my food. Like, what do you mean you can't give me another drink?
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, the dining in, and I appreciate those experiences as well, because I don't think that everything is always going to be perfect and all that stuff. But what I take on these like experiences that are not so good is like it really reinforces what I don't want to be doing.
That's just as important, knowing like this is not what we are.
Yeah, I recently had another experience where I went somewhere and I saw the kitchen and I was like, I don't want to be this, like I just want like, going back to like the tight stuff, the clean stuff and everything, and I remember like very vividly, I was so upset. And that upsetting thing was like, okay, it's good. It's a good thing, so it's like always trying to find like that.
Yeah.
But
100%.
Yeah, love going out to eat, running until I can't feel my legs.
Let's talk about running real quick, because you told me that you ran 100 miles and you won. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I got into running 4 years ago through David Goggins. Big influence in my running thing.
Stay hard.
Stay hard, yeah. And the whole thing about him and the running thing is like do something that you don't like every day. And that thing for him was running. And at the time, I was really big into the weightlifting and all that stuff. And I started running. And it was so hard. And it's still hard, the better you get, the harder it gets, I feel like sometimes. But no, I got into like running, and then I'm like, I don't know. I basically started doing it on my own. And then through the restaurant, ended up meeting Chris Lopez, who is my running coach and actually the person that designed the restaurant. He's an architect. Nice. So he designed it Shell, which I'm forever grateful with him. I met him at the restaurant, and runners know runners. I saw him. I looked. He had a watch. And I'm like, you're a runner? And he's like, yeah. And then he goes like, you should come on run with us. Older guy, you know. I was like, sure, I'll come run with you. He's like, we do a Sunday run every Sunday. A group of us get together, meet at Mendon Ponds. We run, 10 to 12 miles, easy pace. We all chat and catch up with life. And I'm like, for sure. Never reach out to me. See him again. And then after I see him again, we exchange like our running app, Strava.
Yep.
So we exchanged information, and then he saw that I was actually like running and trying. And it's like, oh, you should. And then he invites me.
It's like, okay, this guy's legit.
Yeah, he invites me. Ended up running with him, and it was him and his friend Rob. He was 49, maybe 50 at the time. Rob is in his high 40s too, and now he's 50, I think. But I'm like running with these guys. I was 28, and they are smoking me. I was like, these old guys are just like, and for a long time it was the thing where like, it was like funny. We'll see a hiker and the guys are ahead. I'm in the back dying. And, but yeah, no, I ended up, running with them. And then again, David Goggins and the ultras, always my goal was to run ultras, never like a marathon or anything. Was never interested in none of that. And I was supposed to have my first season of running when COVID happened. So all the races got canceled. And I think one day I just said, I'm going to run 40 miles. And there was a 4-mile loop. I used to live on Oxford, and there was a 4-mile loop. And I was like, I can run 4 miles. I can set up an 8 station in my porch. And I can just do that, 10 times.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I remember it was so hard. It was like the hardest thing I've ever done. And I even got injured from it. But I finished it. I remember the title of the run was "Don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're done," because that's another David Goggin things that he said. And I don't know. After that, I ended up actually training really hard. I got myself a nutritionist, Jen, and I don't know. I got really good at it very quickly. And I remember I was going to do this 100K race, which is the race that I'm doing this year as well. And I started a training block, and we do like this, when you're running, you do these races where there are like a training race. It's not your A race. It's called B races. Okay. There's the A race, the main race that you want to do, but then you add other races in there so you can kind of like explore your fitness and squeeze more fitness out of your body, because racing environment like is completely different to any training run. Like you could do a hard workout and it'll never feel like race. Like I think the adrenaline that you feel on a race day, it's going to push your body further. So that's kind of like why we do these things. And I was doing a local race, and I passed this guy. I'm past this guy. It was during COVID, so there were waves. So they put me on the 13 wave because I didn't have a record yet on my running on the website. So they put me with the slow people. So I just flew out of there. And I passed one of the guys, and the guy's like, hey, I've been hearing a lot about you. Like, you should come do my race. It's a 100-mile race. And I was running really hard, and I was just to get him off my back. I was like, I'll do it. And finished the race. He found me after he finished. He's like, hey, just go sign up for the race. And I was like, oh my God. Like, am I going to do this? And I ended up signing up for the race the next day on a whim. And for some reason, that race became my A race. I forgot about the other race. And I got myself in insane shape. And I always tell people that 100 miles was just a reward of thousands of miles that I had ran before that day. Because there were some workouts there that were like insane. Like I remember very vividly, my peak week was So when you do this type of races, because people always ask, like, how do you train for it? You have to do long runs back to back. And for a race this long, you do that 2 weekends in a row. So I was running like 15 miles on Saturday, and then I was running 6 hours on Sunday, which was like 30 to 32 miles with elevation. Wow. So I had done that already 1 week. Then I'll do like a jog on a Monday to kind of like let the legs kind of like, so people think that, oh, you need to rest. Like there's such thing as like you have to move your body to get things going too. Like active recovery. I'm really big on that. Like I never have a good run after a rest day. Yeah. It's always after like an active recovery or anything. I always like move. Well, even if a walk. But the weekend after, I remember I woke up at 3 a.m., drove to Ontario County Park. We ran 17 miles with 3,500 feet of climbing. Went to worked on all day, woke up the next morning at 5 a.m., and I was at Mendon Ponds. And on Sunday, I ran with two guys that I ended up racing that race with, which was super funny. We ran 30 miles that morning, and then I went to work after running 30 miles. And,
machine, bro.
And that to me was the hardest thing. I still like. And then, 3 weeks later after that, I ran 100 miles, which was kind of cool. I ran my own race. I started at position number 10, I think, throughout the race, and then slowly started picking up people. At mile 33, I was already second place, which is kind of cool. And I didn't catch up the first guy until mile 56. And then I ran the whole race on first place until mile 88, which two guys caught up to me because I was already destroyed. My legs, I ran basically the whole race until mile 88 that they passed me. I was like already been walking probably for a mile because I was like, I can't run anymore. I thought that I had a super big lead on them. I never checked on anybody, and as I'm walking, they pass me. And you get a pacer. And at the time, it was like my coach. And basically, I was destroyed. And they passed me. And I think that I have a loop because it was like loops. It's like I have a loop on them. Like they can just...
Yeah, they can pass me on this one.
They can pass me on this one, and it's fine. And they're like, oh, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm not doing well. Like, I like let all my thoughts, negative thoughts kind of like out. I was like, oh, I hope you feel better. And then I was like, a thing of me was like, are they really passing me? And then I'm like, we're not. I was like, we're not in the same loop. And they're like, yo, we are. And I was like, I looked at my coach and I was like, they're not, right? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, can you call the aid station to like make sure? So he calls them. And when he calls them, at that point, I was like, before I even got the answer, I was like, I don't really care if they're in the same loop or not. I'm going to run. And I remember running. There is this hill. It's called Cardiac Hill. It's the highest, like probably one of the steepest hills on the whole course. And I think this was my fourth, fifth time going through it. And I remember running up, down, and then when I got to the hill, when you're doing this long distance, you normally power hike the hill. But they are still climbing the hill. So I needed them to see me run the hill. What? And I ran up the hill. And I remember when one of the guys saw me, his eyes just like opened up. And he couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I still have a hard time, fresh legs, running up the hill. And I just ran after that. And I like basically just didn't stop. I was like the rush of adrenaline and everything. And I don't know. It's like it was a weird feeling. It's like being done, but then like finding more.
And then you passed them and you ended up getting first place?
I passed them, and then they caught up to me on another hill, and I did kind of like the same thing, but they never passed me. They just kind of caught up. And I'm like, I just got to show them that I You know, sometimes it's like a mental thing. Sometimes it just like let them know, even though if you're inside dead, just show them a little bit more strength and they're just going to pull back.
Dude, that is the most insane story. I mean, it's just true perseverance and grit. And that is a David Goggins mentality right there. Yeah. Like if you told that story to him, I think he'd be like, motherfucker, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it is. I know it's a thing though. It's probably one of the greatest feelings I ever had in my life. And I can't wait to put myself in that position again in like a scenario, because it doesn't matter what I've done. I'm chasing that feeling. It's almost like a drug, you know, like that fact of like I tell you, like I couldn't move my legs. They were so destroyed after running 88 miles and like finding more. Just like there's always more. Like the saying of like your brain gives up before your body was completely true. And it was like spiritual almost.
Wow.
You know, in terms of like pushing beyond your own limits. And like that year I had, you know, I went and did the other race that I was supposed to be my A race, and like I rolled my ankle and mile 5 ended up messing my ankle really bad, and I finished the race 60 miles more on a turn ankle, but it wasn't the same feeling. I wasn't pushing hard. Mm-hmm. I was able to finish, but you know, closest thing was probably a 5K. Running a fast 5K will test your ability, but still, like, it's still the fact that like I was pushing the last half a mile of that, but then when I was done, I was like, I got more in the tank. It's the fact of like doing something and just like leaving it all. Now, it doesn't have to be the running thing. It could be, might happen when I open the restaurant, you know, and like one service that like we had to push really hard and like.
It's incredible, man. It is. It just shows your character and who you are inside, and you're always competing against yourself. That's the big thing right there. You don't let anyone else dictate your perseverance, the amount that you're going to put in, because you're just trying to beat yourself. And that's the game right there. It's all internal. It's all mental.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. And I think the way of like I live in my life when it's just became all about me more than like trying to focus on other people.
Yep.
You know, change. I recently posted something on social media along the lines of like, you know, now with the social media, there's a lot of people out there being influencers and not. And like, I think it's like really easy to point out a finger to use somebody as an example. Like, don't be this guy because like, look at this guy, he's obese, or like, he's a mess. Like, you know, it's whatever it might be, you know. But I was like, I'm really tired of seeing that type of content. Like if you really want to inspire somebody, better yourself and be an example.
Yes, bro. Mic drop. Let's talk about goals for the future quick. Next couple of years, where do you see yourself? Where do you see Shell? Talk about where Chef Cruz is going.
So my main goal right now, I think it's to get the restaurant open. I think once the restaurant open, I think my biggest goal for the restaurant is to have a restaurant that's different and very unique in Rochester. So that's like my main goal. In terms of the finances, I would love to pay off all the debt within the next, 3-4 years of the restaurant, hopefully. One of my other goals is to get into real estate.
Nice.
My business partner, Tim Tompkins.
Oh, he's your business partner.
Yeah.
So I haven't met Tim personally, but heard very good things about him.
He's an amazing person. We ended up becoming business partners when I realized that how much money was going to have to be put into the restaurant, and we ended up becoming business partners. But more than the money, like being around him.
Yeah.
Being around somebody that has that much, he's like self-made basically, that much experience in business and like all that stuff, like that is what I value our relationship so much, like he is such a direct person and he demands so much from everyone around him.
Standards are...
He has a standard, like I feel like if you're weak, he's going to come to you as an asshole. But if you're somebody that's really willing to like put in the work and like do the things that you need to do, like, no, this person is just pushing me. You know, he's sometimes called me in the worst times. It's like, I need you to do this. And I'm like, I don't have time. But I get it done because like I know if I don't get it done, he's not gonna be able to get done his part of the work, you know, and things like that. So he's like, you know, he's incredible. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get into the real estate. I don't want to have more than one restaurant. I love what I do. I don't want to create an empire of restaurants. I want to have one. I want to devote my life to it.
Make it the best. The real estate, hopefully, I'm able to get into it and like have success with it. And that's what's going to like make me, you know, hopefully a more successful person in terms of finances. Support you financially.
Support me financially because I don't define success as a money thing. Mm-hmm. There's different types of success. And even right now, I don't have all the money I want, but I'm very successful because I have the relationships that I want in my life. I'm healthy. Mm-hmm. I'm able to do the things that I love. That to me is like extremely successful. At one point, I couldn't run. I didn't feel that successful back then, you know, because I couldn't do that one thing. Mm-hmm. So would love to do the real estate. You know, I would love to build a culture in the restaurant and like create a team of individuals, which we already have, but kind of like continue to grow with them, you know, and at some point, you know, make them like part owners of the restaurant or something, because, you know, once everything like makes sense, or like, you know, because they are, you know, the people that you work, you're as good as the people that you work with.
That's it right there.
So, but yeah, those are the goals. I hope to continue to run very healthy. And I don't know, at some point when I started doing it and I got really good at it, I had the idea that I could go pro, and I think I could have. Maybe if my life changes by then, I might be able to chase that again, but I just want to continue to run healthy and do these long races and test my
mental and physical strength.
So
amen, brother. Love it. Let's end with this. Young, hungry entrepreneur listening, they're inspired by Chef Cruz. Regardless of what industry they decide to go into, the business they want to start. What's your parting piece of advice, parting wisdom for that person who's just looking to make things happen?
It will probably be two things.
Okay.
The first one is to educate yourself about the thing that you want to do constantly, every day. You'll never know too much about that thing. And then once you think that you know enough about that thing, trying to find branches that are going to supplement that thing that you want to do. You know, like an example, me, like I know a lot about food. Now I need to start learning more about the business aspects of things, and like, how can I profit maybe a little bit more? Because there's not a lot of like profits when it comes to food and things like that. And then like, just work as hard as you can and you're capable of. And, you know, at some point you'll probably have to sacrifice a little bit, but it's not a forever thing.
It's a season. Yep.
It's like a season. Yeah. So you have to be willing to like sacrifice, you know, whatever it might be in order to like be successful. And I think that's pretty much it. And then maybe find a group of individuals that are going to shine the light on you. Yes. I think that was like a big thing for me this week.
Yep.
I ended up doing an amazing dinner that it always blows my mind, that I'm able to go to somebody's house without a kitchen, without knowing what equipment they have, and still pull out something that I would proudly serve at any restaurant. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without the people that I have around me and them believing in me. So I think that a lot of growth is going to come in your life when you create a team of individuals that are lifting each other.
Love it, man. And the quote I always come back to is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Go together.
And that's the mindset that I have, and the team around me. I'm lucky enough to be in the same position, and I just love everything you're doing, man. I'm inspired by you. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. Let's plug everything you want to plug. Shell, when's it opening up? When's the grand opening?
We don't have a date yet. We're like aiming loosely sometime in the fall, hopefully.
Okay.
It's been a big project. That's kind of like why it's been delayed. We're really doing everything from scratch.
Yeah.
So for details, go to our website. It's shell-restaurant.com. Sign up for the mailing list. Once we have a more accurate thing.
Better idea, yep.
We'll put it there and we'll send it over for everybody. So, yeah.
Awesome. Where can people connect with you? Social media? You want to plug your...
The restaurant social media is Shell Restaurant. My other account that I use for business is Chef Cruz 585. So either of those two accounts, you can reach out to me. Again, the website has my personal phone number. So.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, those are the three places. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to go there. And if you're interested in booking a private event as well, until the restaurant opens, you can go on our website and do it directly there and fill up one of the applications. I'm pretty good at replying really quickly, and we'll figure out a date or a mail.
Awesome. Beautiful. Chef Cruz, thank you so much. Go follow him on social media. Check out Shell. I know I'll be checking it out when they open, and maybe even doing a pop-up event too. But again, can't thank you enough for coming on. I think this show is going to be very, very valuable to a lot of people, and can't wait to promote it, man. So thank you for being here. And guys, we will catch you in the next episode. Peace.